Oh, Reap Maras, how's it going? Welcome back to the Blue Army podcast. This is episode 44, and I am joined by a man who was once labelled the non-league Paul Gascoigne. It's Mark Boyd. Hello, Mark. How's it going, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm grand, mate. I'm grand. All the better for seeing you. Obviously, it's always a good time when I get to have a chance to talk to you, mate. Some of the listeners might not know that obviously we've had a conversation before back during the summer. That was on episode 29, if anybody out there wants to go and listen to that. We sort of went through your playing career from your time at Newcastle Academy up until we got to Carlisle, and then you sort of left to go to Gretna, and we left it there. And what we'll do is we'll continue that a little bit later on, Mark, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
But for now, mate, let's have a little bit of a catch-up. Obviously, you work with Chris Lumsden at Lumsden Elite Coaching Academy, and the winter months are well and truly upon us. So is that just a straightforward switch to more indoor training, or does everything slow down a little bit? What's the latest at Lumsden Elite Coaching, mate?
To be honest, mate, we've took a complete break because, I mean, obviously we are starting back up again. It's half to do with facilities and half to do with how much effort and time we've put into it. We started off and we really went for it. We were doing 5 days a week. We were doing weekends. We were really building up our clientele and things like that. And it went really well. And then the dark night started to draw in. We looked into inside facilities. We decided not to go down that route. We've just had like a bit of a shutdown for winter. I think it's done us good. We've sort of recharged the batteries, what have you. We're sort of planning for when we restart, and we've just sort of advertised 2 soccer camps, one in April and one in August. First time we've done it. We've had a really good response from it. I mean, we've got 50 kids booked in already.
Nice.
Over 2 days. I think there's not many places left now. And it's going really well. But we're both getting to spend a lot of time with our families at the minute. Chris is still commentating. I'm not. I've decided to take a little step back from the commentating, just because of a couple of reasons, really. I was doing obviously the away games for Barrow, and I mean I have to do all the driving because the lad who I've done it with, he hasn't got a driving license, and I'm finding it a bit tough because we go a long way. I mean, don't get us wrong, he's trying to get past his test. He's failed his theory a couple of times, but I believe he's passed now, so he's on the final straight. So good luck to him, to Adam. But yeah, so I'm actually doing the Carlisle game this Saturday, actually, against Walsall. I've been asked to go and do a home game for Carlisle, which I'm quite looking forward to, because I've never actually commentated Carlisle at home, but this time on this Saturday coming, I'm doing Walsall, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, man, that would be a great experience, getting to do a home game commentating.
Yeah, it will. It's just different.
Sorry.
It's
a bit different. No, it's a bit difficult.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will. We'll dive into that in just a little bit. How would people go about getting in touch if they want to get their kids onto these coaches in these classes in April, man? What's the links in there?
The best way is you can get me on Twitter or Instagram. You can also get Chris Lumsden on Lumsden. We've got a Lumsden Elite coaching page. So I think if a direct message went to that, Chris would get back to them pretty sharpish and get them booked in and give them the info that they needed. So yeah, it's quite a few months away, but we are already planning for it. We've got a lot of things for the kids to do and what have you, and we're looking forward to spending a couple of days with them and hopefully they have as much fun as they possibly can.
Yeah, I remember having great fun at some of the Carlisle United affiliated soccer camps back in the day. And you used to have like little World Cup tournaments, and you used to end up going away with some kind of medal, maybe a trophy if you were lucky enough to go away with a trophy. But it was a great, you meet people that you wouldn't otherwise meet. You meet other people. And then when you sort of at that age where you can sort of like bump into people in the park and stuff, Carlisle becomes a lot less scary when you've got that reach. Do you know what I mean? It's that extra diversity in somebody's social life. I think that's really important at that age as well.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I mean, I know what you're on about with them Carlisle United fun weeks back in the day, because I went to them myself and they were really, really enjoyable. Remember the little World Cups? You were desperate to win, weren't you?
Yeah, I got one. We won. We were Jamaica, and we won one. It was great.
Yeah.
There was always a rule that if you were England, you never had to wear bibs, and the rule was the team with the silliest name had to wear the bibs.
That's
so
right.
England, that was the rule at soccer camp. So the Cumbrian derby wasn't too long ago, and you obviously played for Carlisle and Barrow. It was a 0-0. I'm not going to say it was a snore draw, because I had a lot of fun in the Warwick. Were you at the game yourself as well?
Was, mate. Yeah, I was in the. Well, I still call it the newsstand. I believe it's over 25 years old, but
I still call it the newsstand.
Oh, the newsstand. I was in there with my friend and his son and his dad. And I thought the first 10, 15 minutes it started off all right. There's a few flares kicking about. I thought it's a proper derby, this. And then it sort of petered out a bit. But listen, Barrow had two glorious opportunities, didn't they? And then Carlisle hit the underside of the bar. So it could have went either way, I think. I think a draw was pretty fair, but it was good to see so many people there. A Cumbrian derby in the league is nice to see, isn't it?
Oh, it really was, man. It really was. The atmosphere was next level. And obviously it does kick on, doesn't it? Obviously people take the kids to those games, and then you build that next generation if they have a good time at the games. And, it just brings everyone back together as well. It normally boosts the numbers for the next couple of weeks. And at this time of year when it's cold, it was a glorious day, wasn't it? Like the sunshine was really out. And if you were in the newsstand anyway, you probably got a bit of blindness if you went to.
Yeah, it was. I remember waking up on the morning and it was blue sky and the sun was shining, and it's the first time I've really, really looked forward to going to a match for quite a long time. And as I say, it was 0-0. It'd been better if there was goals, but there was a little bit of needle. There was chances. The Barrow fans were loud. The Carlisle fans were giving a bit of stick, and they were getting a bit back. And it felt like it had a derby feel to it. I think I just wish they would open the waterworks.
Yeah, it would have.
Oh.
Let them pack it out. yeah, definitely. It gives them their own little ends. Yeah, but you could.
Good, really enjoyed it.
I couldn't really hear them though, to be honest. You would have been closer to them, but I couldn't really hear them.
Yeah. Well, they thought they'd scored at one point, didn't they?
That was fun. That was fun.
They got a bit stick then, didn't they? So.
Sit down, shut up. Sit down, shut up. Who impressed you on the day, mate? It was like standout player either side. Who sort of impressed you on the day?
You know what? I think Carlisle's centre McDonald, is it? Centre half. I think he didn't lose a header. They played to his strengths, mind you, but he cleaned everything up. I've done a few away games for Barrow this season before I sort of stood back from it, and Ollie Banks in the midfield is a good player. But I just think it was two teams. I don't think anyone really stood out. But if you're going to ask me for anyone, I would probably go with McDonald centre half. I think he headed everything that came to him, and like you say, he can be got at if you get him in the correct way, like getting the balls down the side of him. Because I don't think he's the quickest and what have you. But listen, they played to his strengths, and he played really well, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely, man. When they put it in the air, it is his game. And Mellor had a great game in the air as well. To be fair, he was doing everything on that side of the pitch, and McDonald seemed to be doing everything on the air on the other side of the pitch. And McDonald really impressed me. I think I gave him my man of the match. Now, Paul Farman and Ozzy Zanzala, obviously being former Carlisle players, got dogs abuse on the day. And you've played your fair share of professional football. Have you ever gone back to a previous club and never got worried about dogs abuse or received any dogs abuse, or has a nice reception maybe?
No, I've let me think. I have been back. Yeah, I have been back. I've played. I remember I was at Southport for a year. Then I went back a couple of years later. There's a few there, but they're always all right with me because I left on decent terms and everything. I've never really left the club on bad terms and had to go back and face the wrath of the fans, should we say? But I've been in the same team as lads who've got it, and I have seen them be affected by it. It does affect them when they're really getting it. Both battles sometimes they can cave in a bit, but listen, some lads love it. Some lads love it, and it spurs them on to maybe play out of the skin sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, Paul Farman is another one. I think Carlisle should have went all out to maybe try and keep him, because I have been quite impressed with him, what I've seen this season. Zanzala, when he fancies it, he can be as good as anybody, but he's got to be really up for it. You just don't know what mood he's going to turn up in. That's the thing with him, and he can destroy defences, but at the same time he can be anonymous. So you'll know in about 10 minutes how he's going to play.
Yeah, it's one of those players, isn't he? That you can sort of tell he can be up one for an early chop every now and again, but still. You've got to start him, haven't you? Because if he gets it on his day, it's just devastating for other defences. And he is a great player. How do you feel they handled it on the day? How do you think they handled the extra pressures of the fans being on the back? I saw Farman a couple of times backed into the Warwick. That was a big statement. Yeah,
listen, I think he loves it. I think he's one of the ones who loves it. I think he went that far back just to see what would happen. He doesn't have to go that far. He get a mile from a yard, so. He doesn't have to go that far back. I think he sort of played up to it, and Zanzala could have been the hero on the day or the villain, whichever way you want to look at it. And he's missed that chance, and I still don't know how we missed it. It was gilt edge, wasn't it? I mean, you see it from a few angles, and I just don't know how we missed. Same with the header. I think the header was a really good chance as well. But that's what that's what they paid for, and they failed on the day, didn't they? So I bet he regretted that one, because it was only 4 or 5 yards out and just ready to slot in. How he kicked it wide, I don't know how.
We've seen him do it before when he in a Carlisle shirt. It wasn't necessarily a massive surprise. Like you're saying, he's not necessarily the deadliest of finishers. He is more of a feeding off the scraps kind of a striker, not a sort of running clean through the defence kind of player. At least I think so. Anyways, it's most dangerous when the ball's pinging around in the 6-yard box, and he can really dominate either in the air or on the floor. But it got to him, didn't it? That time in front of goal, and thankfully so it did. And the game ended 0-0. I agree with you, mate. It was a fair result on the day. Carlisle's last opponents were Exeter City. Well, actually, by the time this recording goes out, it would have been Harrogate Town. But we'll have a little crack about that in a second, man. But yeah, Exeter City, a 2-1 defeat. Carlisle's lineup, as I always do, mate, I'll just quickly run through it. We had Howard in goal, Mellor, Whelan, McDonald and Armour across the defence, with Gibson, Devine, Mellish and Dickinson in the midfield, and Young and Abrahams playing up front. Now, I'm not sure exactly if the BBC showing up our formation is correct there. I think Devine was maybe a little bit more of a part of like a back five kind of thing with wing backs, but I feel like it was a good system, and things were going really well, obviously, until the moment that we'll come to talk about in just a couple more minutes. But we kept them quiet for most of the first half, and it was pretty steady. I wouldn't say we had the better of them, but I wouldn't say they had the better of us either in that first sort of 40 minutes opening exchange. Obviously, Callum Guy being out the squad is a big sort of change of emphasis, does force a change of system for Carlisle. How do you think they got on?
Do you know what, mate? I mean, Callum Guy is he's sort of the main go-to guy, isn't he? So they've sort of got to change things, but I mean, it was a sending off. Let's get it right. It was a sending off. You can't two-foot people nowadays, and I think, I mean, I don't want to be overcritical of Mellish, but I think if he's not scoring goals, I'm not too sure how much he brings to the team. That's me personally. He's very energetic, and I know he can, but I think on the ball, as a midfielder, I don't, because he's not a natural midfielder. I think that's where he sort of doesn't let himself down, but he needs to improve on, should we say. If he gets the ball off someone, he doesn't really know what's behind him. He'll go back into the same area instead of turning out and going out the other side sometimes. And I've noticed that against Barrow a lot. He'll get it in one area and he'll go back into the same area. And you like to get your midfield to sort of turn out and spread the play. That's what I think. Switching the play, and then you can get attacking them down the other side. But listen, he's good in the air and he's strong in the tackle, but it's a sending off. And now he's got a 3-game ban, and it's going to be interesting because he's a mainstay in the team, isn't he? So someone else is going to get a chance in there. Obviously, I think Callum Guy will come straight back in. He's the captain, and they go through him a lot. And hopefully, he can start playing the way people know he can play under the new manager. So But overall, I mean, when they went 2-0 down this season, you're just expecting 3, 4 and 5, aren't you?
Yeah.
But they've got to go back and I mean, I do read social media. I don't get involved with it. Don't get me wrong. I never get involved with it. I never would. It's not for me. These Twitter spats and comments under. And I've got, listen, we've all got our own opinion, but some people want to put it out to everyone. Some people keep it to themselves. I'm one who I won't go on social media and have my say. But it seemed a lot more positive from the same old faces who aren't normally positive. From what I've seen on Twitter, because you do recognise the same names and faces. And it seemed, as I know they got beaten, you've got to realise Exeter's recent form is excellent, isn't it? Really good. I mean,
the form team, yeah.
And they've went to 10 men, and they've had 10 men for a long time. And I mean, look, they still lost the game. Let's not get it wrong. They lost the game. But I just think the way they didn't crumble was maybe the positive you want to take out of it, I suppose. But you're playing a team who are on 4 with 10 men. There's only going to be one outcome. But they've had a right go, I think, which is good to see. But tomorrow night, I mean, arrogant tomorrow night is.
Yeah.
It's to that point now, but I mean, you got to remember, I got relegated with Carlisle. I mean, but I was only there just under 5 months, and I don't ever remember the fans really, really turning on us. They always really got behind us, and it always sticks in my mind that because you do see fans sometimes, and if the team's bottom or second bottom, that's it. I mean, I went to Oldham. I mean, this was earlier on in the season, and Barrow went 2-0 up, and Oldham fans were just booing the whole team for the rest of the game. I'm like, that's only going to send them one way, isn't it? But I remember my time at Carlisle, and it always sticks out of my mind that whatever the result was, they always clapped us off the pitch from walking in the paddock and things like that. And they were always there the next game. They never stayed away just because we were struggling down the bottom. So hopefully that's the same again, because it's getting to near that time I call Christmas time, and if you're still down in that bottom 2 or 3, you've got to accept that you're in a relegation fight.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a good run of fixtures coming up, and so like Walsall is definitely a winnable game. So is Harrogate. We've got a couple of fixtures coming up that we can get some points on the board. I feel like though Carlisle, you're right. They don't necessarily have a go at the players for losing games, because there's a direction focused who we're blaming for where we are, and it's the board, and that's kind of what's going on. Like the fans are obviously, you know, there is a little bit of booing at the end of games, but it's not. There was a little bit of booing at the end of the Barrow game where I was in the Warwick. There was a little bit of booing, but it's not directed at the players necessarily. It is directed a bit more upstairs, and rightly so as well. I'll give some of the lads a backing up there. You don't have to say anything libelous then.
No, yeah, it's one of them for me. I think if as long as they're given everything and the sort of they're seeing little bits of changes with the new manager, just a little bit of optimism. That's all people want at the minute, because it's been a tough old season up to now. And I mean, the manager's. I mean, he lost, as you said, he lost at the weekend, but it's the manner of which they lost. I think people can sort of take something from.
Definitely very. It was an easy one to take, and especially with the goal. It was a great ball in from Dickinson. The way he sort of held it, and then just found that bend at the right time, and Gibson at the right time, just in the back post. It was a really nice finish. You could see the Carlisle fans behind the goal. Enjoying the first goal in a while, what felt like the first goal in a while. But yeah, we'll talk about the Exeter goals just a little bit, based just off the back of the highlights, mate. A daisy cutting low cross that just sort of like ended up in the back of the net. The striker claimed to get a touch on it, and like that's quite funny when you see it back in the highlights, the way that he's like, I touched it. You can literally see him pointing at my goal. You literally see him pointing at himself.
That's for you.
Yeah, that's what I thought you might say. But it is a little bit disappointing. Earlier in the season, there's definitely been accusation made of lack of communication between defenders back there in the Carlisle back line. But I feel like more and more it's been getting better with Whelan and McDonald. They definitely sort of like figured how they're going to defend and how they work together out. But when you keep throwing Feeney in the mix, obviously you can unbalance things, and you don't get time to gel with certain players, and maybe that can affect Carlisle's back line and the communication back there. But I mean, what happened there, mate? Was it just somebody that didn't say my ball, or like sort of like what happens when those daisy cutting balls just go through everybody? Like, it must feel absolutely like, gutting.
Yeah, you're waiting for someone to take control, aren't you? And I think everybody was waiting for everybody else to take control of the situation. But I think, like you say, I think the communication will be a lot better now because of the keeper they've got on board. He's very, very experienced, isn't he? I think he's 35. He's been around, and I think that's going to be a good signing in the end, because if you've got someone who's that experienced and that vocal coming from the back and spreads right through the team, and you think McDonald would be the same, then you've got Guy in front of him as well. So that's the spine of your team, isn't it? And if you've got the spine of the team who are communicating with everyone and are very vocal, and at times like now, you'd really need them more than ever, because you need them. If you go a goal down, do you think, oh, here we go again? And you've got to get that out of them, and think, look, we can get back into this if we do go behind, or if we get in the lead, let's hold on to this lead, whatever it takes. And it's going to get to that. It's going to get to that situation where I don't think people are really going to care how they play. It's if they win or not, and that's what it comes down to. Because I was speaking about this today on the phone, and if you go out of the league now, it's so difficult to get back in. And you don't want to really. I'm not being really negative here. I'm just being realistic. You're in a position now, I think, for a reason. And I do believe Carlisle will finish in the bottom 4 or 5. That's my honest opinion. But where, I don't know. And that's where you've really got to. You need your experienced lads, and you need lads to be brave when the games start running out and things like that. And you just need to get results any way you can. Nice football goes out the window, because, like I said, if you go out of the league, ask teams like Grimsby, Stockport, the list is endless, Chesterfield, and the league even below that, you've got York City, Chester City. They were always league clubs. Yeah. And they've been in the league a long time now, and getting back in for them is so difficult. And for this city not to have a team in the league, it'd be disaster, I think. And but listen, we're nearly at Christmas. The manager's pretty new. Everything can change, but I think it needs to start changing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the pressure is going to be on pretty soon if we're not outside the relegation zone around Christmas Day, I'd say. People are going to start panicking. Absolutely. And obviously, everyone keeps saying that the January transfer window is going to maybe give us extra possibilities and options and stuff, but there's nothing stopping us right now from signing free agents, and there's nothing stopping us from signing players on loan, I don't think, right now either. So I don't necessarily think there is going to be people coming in that are going to be a saving grace. Maybe there will be like one person, but I don't think there's going to be an influx of players that are going to come in because of Millen's so-called contact books.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the thing is with Carlisle, it's plain to see they need someone to put the ball in the net, and they're the hardest players to find. So if you're scoring goals somewhere, teams you're not getting rid of a goal scorer. So finding a one is really difficult. Like you said, I mean, they've tried to look with Young from Villa, and he's decent, but he's not coming bang goal after goal after goal in and made you think, do you know what, that's why he's at Aston Villa. You've not really thought that with the lad. And Abrahams is, I think for me, struggled. He's struggled. That he's not the answer for me. I think they need to find that. I mean, they've got high hopes for Fishburne, but he's a kid. I mean, I know kids come in at that age and they do score goals, and listen, now he's starting to get thrown in. He's a real big unit as well. I didn't know he was so big.
Yeah,
he's a big lad.
Yeah, he is. He's physical, like.
Yeah, he's got the physical attributes already, even at his age, which I noticed when I went down and seen him against when he was warming up against Barrow. I thought he's a man already. Do you know what I mean? And some of these 17-year-olds are obviously still young lads, but he looks like he's developed well. But yeah, I just think you'd be desperate for them to find someone just to come in and get them goals after Christmas, just to get them away from that bottom two. But it's going to be tough just to find that player, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what everyone wants, and we're not really going to throw the checkbook at a lot of people. And evidence says Danny Graham. Apparently, we were talking to him last January, tried to get something developing, and then obviously over the summer, nothing developed either. Now, I'm not saying he would have hit the ground running necessarily, but it would have been an option that he would have liked to have had.
I mean, do you know what? If, like you said, with free agents and things, it's still November. I mean, I do believe he's doing nothing. Well, I know he's doing nothing. Listen, he's 35, coming up 36. He's gonna take a bit of time if he was to come in to get up to speed. But who else is out there? Do you know what I mean? They should tempt him for a few months after Christmas and see how he feels at the end of the season if he come in, and because he's been there and done it, hasn't he? He's proven even in the Premier League, so, and the Championship, things like that. So he's had a hell of a career, but you don't know what he's maybe just happy sitting on the couch drinking cups of tea. You just don't know, do you?
No, you just don't know. That's right. Unfortunately, 20 minutes after Exeter opened the door, they went running through it again. Devastating play down the left-hand flank, and I don't know again if it was a lack of communication, not being closed down fast enough. The fullback had enough time to pull it back and take his shot with quite a lot of space, very close to the corner of the 6-yard box. And
yeah.
it is one of the things that a lot of fans have been saying about Millen is that he's got the defence right. And I don't want to be too harsh on them because they are a man down, and that obviously causes a bit of a reshuffle. But these things that used to be problems before he took over, and if they start coming back because the team have not necessarily kicked the habit, it could really start a downward spiral for that defense if they don't shore up again. Because after this goal, there was a lot of hands going up, a lot of gestures, a lot of shouting and pointing at each other. And it was the same after the first goal as well. But Caprice's first goal is a little side note, 321 appearances. So it lets you in on Carlisle's luck of late.
It does. No, I mean all that finger pointing and things. I know what you mean. It doesn't look too good when you see it, but you just hit the nail on the head there. The new manager's come in and he had to get them out of some bad habits, and he has to get them out of it quick because some of the goals they've conceded over the last few weeks have been really, really soft. When you watch them, especially when you watch them back and you watch the replays of them, some of them you shake your head in disbelief. So, but before that, was it 3 clean sheets? I mean, I know it's in different competitions and what have you, and then against certain teams, but when you're in that position in the league and you're clutching at straws for anything, and if you're not scoring, and it's difficult being down the bottom. And they'll be feeling it, them players, because at the end of the day, it's their livelihood's on the line, isn't it? And they want to be professional footballers playing in the EFL. And if they were to go out of it, a lot of them wouldn't get back in it. That's just the harsh reality of the business that they're in. I've been there myself. It's tough. I mean, when we got relegated, I was in the wilderness for 2 years, and I was close to packing it all in. But luckily, I got another chance and kicked on again. But yeah, it's tough, and when you're down the bottom and things aren't going your way, even it's just people say it's the best job in the world. It's not when you're down the bottom.
No. It seems like some Carlisle players as well, they're just dropping like flies at the moment. There's an injury to Louis Alessandro that's going to keep him out for a while, and then Mellish is going to be suspended for 3 games. Clough took a knock last week, so obviously he was rested for this game. I think he was still on the bench though. And it is the time of year when fixtures start to pile up, players start to get injured, and you might not get a choice but to play players like Fishburn and like Charters because they just won't have the options going forward.
And that's sometimes when they do actually take the chance, when they get a few games, an actual, not just coming on a sub. Excuse me, they get a start and they've got no option but to keep him on, and 2, 3, 4 games down the line, he might nick a goal, and then you could see the kid take off. And I'd like to see nothing more than someone come through the ranks and be that saviour. Do you know what I mean? And I'd love it to be him. I mean, he's went down to Lancaster. I know it's a few steps below, but he's absolutely smashed that league at a young age. Every single game he was scoring, wasn't he? 1, 2, 3 goals a game, and so he looks a prospect, doesn't he? But like you say, over Christmas and when the games do pile up, that's when the manager's got to be careful with how much training they do and things like that, because the squads aren't massive in the lower leagues, and you need players on a Saturday at 3:00, and some lads might just have to sort of train on a Friday if they've got niggles, if they can get through games. And it's a bit different when you're mid-table, because it matters, but your life sort of doesn't depend on it, does it? But when you're in that bottom 2 and 3, you need to strap lads up and get them out on the pitch.
Yeah, we got Gibson is probably my man of the match, and we always nominate a man of the match, even if we end up losing the game. From the Carlisle side, I'm tallying them up into some kind of award I'm going to send in to Brinton Park one day. But yeah, he's my man of the match. It was a very well taken goal, but there was also a time when he took the ball from his own half and just absolutely ran at the defenders. He let himself down in the final third with the ball into Christian Abrahams. But he's a real bright spark. And I feel like if you've got him on one side, Dickinson on the other side, and a player like Zach Clough, that's surely too much quality to go down in this division.
Famous last words. But yeah. No, listen, I agree with you on what you see and sort of the reputation Zach Clough's got and Dickinson's got. You think, yeah, but they've got to go out and do it, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I do agree about Gibson. I think he's a bright spark, and if he can work on his final ball in the final third, he'll become such a better player. But they've got him from Ireland, and there is some gems in Ireland. I mean, I played for Sligo as well. Come from, and there's a lot of players in that league that always make the jump up, and there's a lot of good players out in Ireland, and he's one of them. So hopefully he keeps improving and does well for himself.
Yeah, I hope so. Would he be your man of the match as well? I'll get you on the tally.
Yeah.
I'll get that written down so I don't forget Gibson. So obviously Carlisle are going to be playing Harrogate. It's going to be Tuesday night. This recording's going out on Wednesday. But is there anything you would change from the Carlisle lineup going into the Harrogate game? Would you want to be more physical maybe, or would you want to try and get the ball on the ground more? Or do you think it was pretty good? Because I thought it was a pretty good performance. Obviously we held them just up until the red card. So would you change anything?
Well, I mean, it was decent enough, wasn't it? But Harrogate are a good side. They are a good side. You've got, I mean, you sort of think they're a team who've come up and things like that, but they've been up for a while now, like Barrow, and they're sort of settled in the league, and they've got a good squad together. They've had the manager and Paul Thirlwell there for a long time. They all know exactly what the jobs are. They know exactly how they want to play. They'll be very well drilled and things like that. So you just don't want to give a team like that an early lead, or just a bit of a leg up, you call it, and they think, you know what, I quite fancy this. You've got to start. I think the Carlisle just got to really start brightly and take the game to them and get that goal at home in the league, and just. But no, I think from Saturday, the effort was. I mean, you do need more than effort, of course you do. But it was. How do you say it? Obviously, it was a loss, but it was a loss where you haven't come away thinking that was terrible again. There was nothing in the game, and there was little positive parts. And I mean, like you say, we're getting to Christmas now, so you do need results. But I think it's one of them. I don't think they'll be too overly bothered about the performance, and I think you'll be the same. I think you'd take an ugly 1-0 win all day long.
You don't really have a choice when you play on Harrogate's pitch.
yeah. So it's one of them where just pretty more the same effort wise, and I mean, obviously Mellishy's got to be replaced, hasn't he? And he's been a mainstay in the team. So, but Guy will come back in, won't he? But yeah, it's another tough game. And listen, unfortunately, Carlisle are one of the teams, along with Scunthorpe, Oldham, and one or two others, that teams are going to fancy themselves against at the minute. And that's up to Carlisle to sort of to turn up and show them that they're not just going to be easily beat, which they have been a lot before Beach left.
See, in the last episode, I was talking to Wills about Callum Guy maybe having a bit of a poor season this season so far. And the fact that every time he gets on the ball, it looks like everyone just pegs it, and he's got no one near him. And Wills was saying about Danny Devine being the sort of player that wouldn't bob on. You know, Joe Riley bobs on, and so does John Mellish. But like Devine would stay closer to Guy and maybe just take that pressure off and give him that extra option where he can just pass it short, because maybe that's kind of the issue there. I think it'd be interesting. I'd like to see in the Harrogate game, I'd definitely like to see Guy and Devine in the midfield and just see if that theory holds true, because there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing while Millen decides who his favourite players are. But
yeah,
you know, eventually we're going to see some kind of consistency.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Guy and Mellish is a two. I mean, like I said before, Mellish went on that ridiculous goal scoring run, didn't he? I think it's bought him a lot of time in the team. Now, he's out for 3 games now, and it's time for something different. And you might see a Guy next to Devine, and he might just bring his game on again, like you say. And I do know what you mean when he gets it in turns. The options are limited. I think Alessandro's a type of player that does like to show for the ball. But obviously, he's out injured. But like you say, get it out wide to the lads who look threatening. Let's see what their fullbacks are about. But like you say, when they're getting in them positions, it's who's getting on the end of it, and that's, I think, is going to be the Achilles heel until it's sorted. And getting it sorted is just the biggest task in the world, I think, because finding goal scorers at this point in the season to come to a team who are down the bottom of League Two is a hard task. But they've got to try and do it, haven't they? Because they need goals from somewhere. They do, because you just can't keep going on the way it is and expect to win football matches when you're not scoring plenty of goals. But like you say, tomorrow's going to be tough, and Carlisle's one of them teams that, unfortunately, teams won't quite like playing against at the minute, and that's not a good thing.
That is part of it. I mean, the form table definitely tells a story. Carlisle are now in the relegation zone. There might be a different story if you pull off a result against Harrogate Town on Tuesday night, but it's, you know, when you look at Exeter, they are definitely they're the inform in the league. The informed team in the league. It was always going to be a really tall task, and I feel like we did have a good game. And going into Harrogate, we're hoping for a bit more, but Harrogate aren't that far away from Exeter in the league, and it's not like they've been terrible this season. Thankfully, they've been having more of a blip recently. Thankfully, but you know, they lost against Salford. It's gonna be one of those ones. But yeah, we'll move away from the football crack, and we'll go back to anyway. Obviously, a long time ago, we spoke about your footballing career, and we sort of like went through Newcastle, Port Vale, Carlisle, and we left things at the big money spending, Brook Marlson, Wheeling. Gretna. Now, obviously, there wasn't just you that jumped ship from Carlisle to Gretna, and it wasn't only going to be you over the next couple of years that also did that. The checkbook was well and truly out. There was cash being splashed around. Did that impact the changing room at all? Was there any sort of like people swanning about the place, or like how was that like in Gretna, the changing room?
It was full of egos, obviously. You've got lads coming down from the SPL on big money, coming down for money, and that's it. And there's a big divide in the English changing room and the Scottish changing room. There was a lot of backstabbing going on. It was a bit of a poisonous atmosphere. But the players were that good compared to Scottish Third Division players that they won nearly every game. So that sort of papered over the cracks of what was going on in the changing room. I mean, it wasn't a nice place to be, and there was always somebody slagging somebody off. And I felt sorry for Brooks Marlson, who was putting all this money in. And you would think it would be a place where everyone was getting on, and because of the results that they were getting. But it was the total opposite. There was arguing in training on a daily basis. The reserve team manager didn't like the first team manager, vice versa, but they would slag each other off to other people. It would get back to them. It's like a schoolyard. It was And it was just the worst year and a half of my entire career. It nearly ended me with football. That's how bad it was for me. And luckily enough, in the end, Brooks Mileston gave me some money to tear my contract up, and I couldn't get away from the place quick enough.
Is that what happened? Because I was going to go on to, after Gretna obviously had a little bit of time on loan, and that was your only loan spell of your career, I believe.
Yeah.
Was that Macclesfield? That was at Macclesfield Town. So coming back across the border, Macclesfield. Was that just a big relief for you, just to get away from Gretna? Would you have taken anything at the time, or how did that move come around for you?
Well, it was my old manager from Port Vale, Brian Horton. And it was bizarre because I couldn't get a game in the Scottish Third Division, but there was an English League Two team wanting to take me on loan. And
why weren't you getting a game at Gretna?
Because I didn't go with the manager. Because he did. I'll tell you what. So what happened was, I got asked to play in a pre-season game against a team called Dalbeattie Star. I'm no disrespect to Dalbeattie. I don't know what league they're in. I think they're in some part-time Scottish league. So I played 45 minutes, and Brooks Mileston came on the pitch and went, "Can I have a word?" I was like, "Yeah." I'd played really well, but I played really well against not great players.
Yeah.
And but I should play well against players like that, if you know what I mean. So he's took me off, and he's offered me 3 years on the side of the pitch on really good money. And I was like, where's the manager? It's like, leave the manager to me, I'll speak to the manager. So I went in there. I signed a 3-year contract on really good wages. But the reason I left Carlisle was I had a gentleman's agreement with Simo, and he went back on it. Now, it wasn't Simo's fault. It was his hands were tied. And I was on X amount, and I got offered just under half of that. Mm. And he promised me I would get at least what I was on or more, whether we stayed up or we went down. That was my reason for coming back to Carlisle in the first place. But that never materialised. So I was in a bit of limbo because we've been relegated from the Football League. I thought, what do I do now? So I was sort of like just keeping myself as fit as I could. And then obviously I played this pre-season game for Gretna, and I signed 3 years the day after. But that was on a Friday night, and I signed on the Saturday morning. My first day was on the Monday. But it's just hard to believe. I got called into the manager's office, and he went, "I'm not happy about this." Didn't introduce himself or nothing. The first words he ever said to me was, "I'm not happy about this." And I went, "What's up?" He went, "I didn't sign you, and I don't want you here." I was like, "Right." I said, "I've just signed 3 years on Saturday morning." He went, "I know you have." He went, "You're training with the reserves." And that was it. So from day one, there's lads at Gretna I was there with. I mean, you probably had Derek Townsley, he was there, Mark Birch, Gavin Skelton. I'm pretty sure they would tell you I got treated unbelievably badly the time. There was never any trouble. I got on with it. I'd done everything I was asked to do. I played for the reserves because at the end of the day, it's my job. I'd done it to the best of my ability. Bear in mind, I'd played in League One a lot of times. I played in League Two a lot of times. And I'm playing for the Scottish Third Division reserve team for over a season. And it was tough to do. And in the end, I was at my wit's end, and I just went into to see Brooks. I said, "Look, you signed me here." I said, "I need to get away before my career finishes, before I started." And he went, and we sort of talked money, and he always had a checkbook in his back pocket, believe it or not. And he wrote me a check, and I went into the manager, and I just said, "Look," I said, "you've not treated me fairly from day one." And he tried to say to me, "Oh, no hard feelings," and he went to shake my hand. I went, "I'm not shaking your hand." I said, "Because you've killed a year and a half of my career for no reason." No reason.
It was the same manager the whole time. Who was it? Who was the manager at the time?
Rowan Alexander. Yeah, he's he is what he is. But we used to do like 11 against 11 reserves against the first team, and I should have played in that team, but I never. But luckily enough, I got away, and I got to Accrington Stanley, and I started enjoying football again. So, but yeah, that year and a half, mate, was tough, really tough.
Well, how did the move to Accrington Stanley come about? And is it just as simple as because if you signed a 3-year deal and cancelled it after 18 months, is it just as simple as getting a checkbook out, that kind of thing? Then you just need to sign a little bit of paper. Is that all it is?
With England and Scotland, you've got to get international clearance and things like that. And to be fair to Gretna, that's the only thing they ever done for me. They got that done pretty quick. They sort of like cancelled my registration. I got my international clearance from Scotland back to England, and then I could go and trial places or things like that. Now I was at Macclesfield with a lad called Michael Welsh, who was a centre half, and I sort of kept in touch with him, and he just rang me out of the blue, and he went, like, "What are you doing with yourself?" I'm like, so I told him the situation, all that. He went, "Look, we need a midfielder at Accrington Stanley. We're top of the conference. We've got 4.5, 5 months left." So the next night, I was playing in like a Lancashire Cup game against a team called Burscough.
Okay.
And I played really well, thankfully. And then I got signed to the end of the season, and we won the conference, and I really, really enjoyed it there. And I should have stayed there, but because I hadn't played much football for that year and a half, that was I couldn't get back into League Two. Now Paul Cook, who's the Ipswich manager now, he got the Southport job in the conference, and he went, "Look, if you come, I'll make you captain, I'll make you top earner, blah blah blah." And I wanted to play regular football, and I knew I would under him. I wasn't too sure I would at Accrington, and I simply went there because I knew I would play every game. And I got like 50 games under my belt last season, 40, 50 games under my belt. And then after that, I went to Ireland with Paul Cook.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's a bit of a strange move. It must have been a hard sell. Were you married at the time? Did you have any kids at the time or anything?
No.
So it's a lot easier for you just to pack up and disappear over there.
Yeah,
then.
I could just float about anywhere I wanted to. I mean, I was 25, I think, at the time, and he'd got the job in Sligo, and he just rang me up. He said, "Look," he said, "what are you doing?" I said, "You know what? I'll come and give it." And it's a very, very good standard, by the way. It's a good standard. Ireland's good, but they're also really good at drinking as well. Like that. So it was a good year. I would say more socially than anything else. But my career sort of kick-started again after that when I went to Barrow. And it's funny how football works, because the Barrow manager at the time was Dave Bayliss, and he came in and trained with us a few times at Southport. And obviously remembered me from there. He got in touch, and I wanted to move back home, and then when I went to Barrow, that was really, the next 5 years were just unbelievable.
Well, you've jumped leaps and bounds ahead there, man. We've absolutely stonkered through a lot of your career. I don't want to just glass over Sligo Rovers too quickly. Obviously, not too many games for you over there. You went over there with the manager. What happened? Did you fall out? What did you get an injury? What was the story about that?
There, and I wasn't fit. I was messing about, really. I was going out too much, and he knew this. And you know how he knew it? Because he was with me half the time. So he was one of them where he wanted both. He wanted me to get fit and get in his team, but at the same time, he liked to paint himself. And I just had more fun over there than anything else, really. I just really enjoyed Ireland and the Irish people, and I didn't play that much. And it was a bit of a waste of a year, really. That's when I knew I had to come back. I couldn't carry on doing that. Couldn't carry on as a winner.
Was that what it was? It was an SOS.
He sort of persuaded me to try and stay, and I said, "Look, I need to get back and play some football now." I said, "I've done nothing for too long." And I had the Gretna, then I had a good spell, then I'd done sort of nothing at Sligo again. And then obviously, listen, Sligo as a place in Ireland is unbelievable. Like, what a place. Honestly, okay. The Irish people are phenomenal. They're just, honestly, they're different. Well, you know like. But I got roped into being very sociable that season. So, but when I did come back to Barrow, it was the first time I went part-time in the Conference North. Now, I got a job in the hospital in Carlisle, just as a porter, just delivering the medical records and things like that. And we had 24 games left for Barrow. We lost on my debut 1-0 to Stalybridge Celtic, and then we didn't lose for 23 games, and we got promoted. in the playoffs, and then I went back full time again. So I had like a little few months of being part time and working, and then straight back to being full time again. And then obviously after that we had our FA Cup runs and things like that, which were different class.
I think you're a bit of a legend of the old hospital administrations thing. My mum told me. I think she works with like one of your relations who works at the hospital doing a very sort of similar job. Maybe.
Well, my mother was my boss till she retired.
That's how I got. That's how they know each other. Yeah, our mums know each other.
I wouldn't have got
Carlisle.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean I had to go in and see like my mum and said, look, I said Barrow are going full time because we're in the top league of the non-league, and she was like, well, if that's all you've ever done, just go back and do it. So she was all right. She went, there'll always be a job here if you want it. And so she was great, my mum. She was great, my mum. So yeah, we went back full time, and in the, obviously it's called the National League now. It was called the Conference then, wasn't it? But it's a tough league. It's a good league.
Well, because my mum knows you're on, I better say hello to her. Hello, mum, because she'll definitely be listening because you're on, mate. She tells stories, or someone's told her stories about you in the hospital. I don't know. So yeah, after Sligo, it was Barrow, and you had that great season. Pushed on. What was it that attracted you to Barrow? Or was it just the fact that it was close to home again?
It was to start with. It was the manager really wanted me to sign, and I sort of spoke to him over the last month or two, and he was at me all the time to come and sign. But I knew Graham Anthony used to play there, and Holt used to play there, Grant Holt, and they speak so highly of it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it. If them two lads who've had unbelievable careers, two unbelievable players who speak so highly of it, I thought I'm going to give it a go. And I went at a real period where there was a lot happening. We went up out the Conference North. That season, we were on the TV, the first game of the season against Oxford, who were favourites. We beat them. We got FA Cup third round against Middlesbrough at the Riverside, trying to get close to people like Stuart Downing, which you don't get very close to players like that. You just chase his shadow. But just playing against them Premier League boys, and then we played against them the year after. We played Sunderland, who were in the Premier League in the FA Cup third round, and you play like there's 25,000-30,000 people there. Do you know what I mean? It's proper games, proper games, and the atmosphere is electric. And just some. And then obviously we went to Wembley. We won at Wembley. Just the list goes on and on and on. And like I'll always have real good memories of that club because of the times that I spent there.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You did have great times there. You won a lot of games, and with it, a fair bit of silverware. Now, why did you trade that all in for a move to Droylsden, mate? I'm not trying to be derogatory, by the way. I'm actually in Droylsden right now.
what was I then? I was approaching 30. I went when I'm 25 when I went there, because I went to Droylsden when I was nearly 30. And there was a lad called Andy Bond and Robin Hulbert who were playing before me. I was in and out sort of thing, and I was getting to that place where they would have kept me as long as I wanted to stay there, because I got on that well with the managers. And I lived in Liverpool at the time, and I knew the Droylsden manager. He said, look, do you want to come for a bit? It was all right, mate. It was a Conference North. But after that, after them years at Barrow, it was sort of petering out for me then. And I went to work. I enjoyed it at working, and after that, it was. I mean, from literally 31 to 33, 34, it was. You started deteriorating a bit. You're not the player you used to be. I certainly wasn't anyway.
You still got the games in at Workington. They made you work for it. Like you definitely played a lot of games for Workington. But yeah. I mean, I do want to mention obviously Droylsden now. Unfortunately, I feel like it doesn't exist anymore. The stadium just sort of stands empty. It's all a bit overgrown, and it's just a big shame. Big shame. It would have been nice, because I just moved to the area recently. It would have been nice to have a local football team. It's very central. It's very in the town. It's very central. I know there's not a lot going on there, but it seemed like it was a little bit of a hub. But there's some good little teams around there. There's Ashton as well. That's a good little team around there. But yeah, after Droylsden, Workington just worked you, didn't they? Got a lot of games out of you.
Yeah, got a lot. I mean, I was lucky enough to my first season there. I was playing centre midfield with Tony Hopper. Obviously, God rest his soul. And we had a good partnership with Tony, and obviously with Dabber as well. Dabber Houston, who's a good friend of mine. We played together. And a lot of my mates. We had 2 good seasons, and yeah, it was good. It was good. I was going to stay for a 3rd season, but obviously the gravy train arrived, didn't it?
What the hell? What was Celtic Nation all about? It was one great season, one not so great season,
Yeah.
and the rug just got pulled out from under people's feet, didn't it? In that 2nd season. What was the initial contact from Celtic Nation? Would they just call you directly and say, or did you know the manager? And they were like,
yeah, I know. I knew Mick Wadsworth from Newcastle years ago, and we got whispered he was getting the job, and then he did. And then he rang me. He said, "Look, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm working." He went, "Well, do you want to come play for me?" I said, "Well, I've sort of agreed a 3rd season at working." And he asked me how much I was getting, and he went, "Right, I'll double it." And he doubled my money. So I thought, I'm 30, nearly coming up 33, and I rang Edmo, Dan Edmondson. I just said, "Look," I said, "this is what they're offering." He went, "Get yourself there." And myself and Gary Roundtree and Aaron Taylor, we all went.
Yeah.
It was a good year, and we should have went up. How we never, I don't know. I don't know. We had the likes of Peter Murphy, Willie Gibson, Colin McMenamin, and we finished 2nd to Spennymoor. And it's got to be classed as a failure because some of the money that was getting thrown about was ridiculous. And then obviously the plug got pulled because we didn't go up.
Was that just because of that? It was only 1 season investment, was it? Right.
He wanted
simple as that.
Yeah, he wanted to go up. And when we never went up, even out the Northern League, he was like, "I'm not doing that again." He gave a little he sort of said, "Right, I'll pay for the rest of this season." That's when lads started leaving again because the money was running out, and that's when I become sort of player manager, which was an experience in itself because it's so different. It's 24/7. You don't switch off from it ever, even at that level. Because obviously we had lads leaving left, right, and centre. I had to get local lads into play, and it was tough, but it was a good experience.
Yeah, I mean, how did that come about? Did you put your hand up for the job, or were you asked? Yeah,
it was a bit of both because we had a pre-season game, and they got in touch with me and said, "Look, you're one of the few ones that are left. Would you take the game today? And will you take the next 2 pre-season games?" I got offered to take 3 games, and I thought, right, well, if I've got to take 3 games, I'm going to see who I can get in to come and play. And I sort of tried to get the best lads from the area to come and test themselves because the Northern League's a really good league. People underestimate it. It's a good league. You've got lads in the North East who are good players. You've got a lot of ex-pros who play in it. And fair play to some of the lads that come and had a go, and we fell short in the end, but they'll all tell you they had a really good time trying in that league, and it's good to see local lads testing themselves and things like that. But it was never going to carry on. There was whispers that money was going to come from somewhere, but it never did. And that was the end of that. And then that was the end of my career, really. That was me done.
Yeah, just a little bit of bopping around with Penrith and Carlisle City, and then
yeah, you try
it again. You just do it just for something to do on a Saturday, was it? Kind of.
You stay involved because it's football, mate, and it's all you know.
Yeah.
It's all you know. But when your legs don't do what your brain tells them to, it's very, very frustrating. And you can do anything you want, but when they've gone, they've gone. They're not coming back.
Well, Mark, mate, we've gone through your whole career now from episode 29 up until just now, and I've just got one more question for you. Normally, I do end the interviews on a bit of fun, and I asked you that question last time you were on. That do you play with yourself regarding FIFA and Football Manager and things like that? But I've got another one for you that I've been asking some other people when they've been coming on the pod recently, and as an ex-Newcastle Academy man yourself, this could interest you a little bit more than the average person on the street. So the question is, if you were handed the reins, or say we're just put in as technical director, now there's Eddie Howe in charge, but if you were put in as some kind of like technical director, who are your first 3 signings for Newcastle United in January? If you can pull the trigger on January 1st and boom, 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 who you having?
Anybody you want.
Oh no, let's be realistic.
Different now, is it? Do you know what? I think Jesse Lingard would be a good signing because he went to West Ham and proved his worth, didn't he? His contract talk have sort of fell by the wayside. I think
new manager though at Man United. You might like him.
Yeah, I think he would be good to get on loan to the end of the season and hopefully reproduce what he did at West Ham. And I think they could maybe get a real good centre half. Who would you get? Who would sign for them? That's a question.
A decent centre back. That's true actually.
But with them being, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because they've got all this money, but with them being in the position that they're in, it's sort of gonna really make players think twice, isn't it, about signing for them? So, I mean, they got a 3-3 at the weekend, didn't they? And supposedly they were a lot better, but new manager syndrome, innit? You normally do get a reaction out of players. You've seen it all before, haven't you? I mean, Norwich won, Villa won. All got new managers, so. But yeah, back to it. I think Jesse Lingard, a centre half. Who? I don't know. I really don't know.
I like James. Is it Tarkowski? I know he's like more of a fullback, but I think like with Lascelles in the middle and maybe Tarkowski out wide, it might just be enough to stop the goals, at least down that one channel. Yeah,
but listen, I always do look out for them, obviously, because I was there for a long time. But I would love them to turn it around and stay up, because I'm really excited to see what they could do because if they do stay up, I think they'll have a pick of a lot of players. If they do get it from a fresh start, where they know they're going to be in the Premier League from day one, I think you'd see players really being interested then.
I think maybe a Matip from Liverpool would be interesting.
Yeah, someone like that. Yeah, proven in the Premier League and in the top half of the league. Yeah, but we'll see. But if they go down, they've got to bounce straight back up, haven't they, with all that money? But we'll know. Who knows? I
can't see them going down. You got a centre back and you got Jesse Lingard. This is a very nondescript list so far, Mark.
Who's a forward that can score? Who scores goals in the Premier League but doesn't?
I've suggested Vardy in the past. I reckon he's got one. I know, but he's got one big contract in him. How long do Newcastle? There's only certain players Newcastle can sign. They only need them for 2 years 2 or 3 years until they can bring in someone big.
Oh yeah,
you could do the job for 2 years, maybe.
What is he? 32, 33? Is he?
I think it's 32.
32. He should have a couple of years left, then, shouldn't he?
I think he should have another. Yeah.
There you go. There's my answer. I'm going.
You're going to steal Vardy as well. Well, I don't blame you, because it's a good suggestion. If I do say so myself. Right, Mark, mate.
Them fans would love him as well.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for joining me today on the podcast, mate. Always a pleasure, and I'm sure I'm going to be seeing you a lot more in the very near future, because I'm doing a house move, and unfortunately there's not going to be an episode next week, so sorry listeners, but I will be moving closer to Brunton Park and therefore able to give better top dollar analysis of the Carlisle United team. So yeah, Mark, once more, thank you very much for joining me today on the Blue Army podcast, mate. Cheers, pal, and bye for now.
See you later, pal.